Hey guys, welcome to the Trophy Life podcast. I'm your host, Tara Smith. From beauty to wellness, wife life, motherhood, and everything feminine in between, the Trophy Life podcast is a place where you can feel inspired and empowered and ultimately create the life that you desire and deserve. It's hot to romanticize your life, so grab a mocktail or your favorite cozy beverage and let's get into it. Hello everybody, welcome back to the Trophy Life podcast. Today's episode, before I share anything or get into it, I just want to give a trigger warning about miscarriage and really pregnancy in general. And I think if you're not in the place mentally, emotionally, or if you've maybe gone through it, just maybe think about, if you really want to listen and hear the types of things that I'm going to share, because I'm going to be sharing my story. And I know sometimes for me, it's been comforting to hear other women's stories, but I know everybody processes things emotionally very differently. And so I just want to preface that before I say anything about today's episode. So I'm going to share, obviously, if you follow me on Instagram or TikTok, I shared that my husband Colby and I went through our first pregnancy loss actually a week ago today. So it's still like very fresh. And I'll explain why I'm even sharing and why I've been really open on my Instagram stories and everything. I'll share all of that in this episode as well. But the first part of the entire episode that I want to start off with is sharing my health journey, which I kind of did if you listened to my episode where I talked about my thyroid and Hashimoto's and hypothyroidism and all that stuff. But I kind of wanted to also go into this with, if you have listened to that episode, this part will kind of make more sense. So I would say in summer of 2022, my husband and I had moved back to Utah from California. We were living in Orange County. We were living in Irvine for a few years, which, by the way, I absolutely loved living there so much. And our time in California is always something that I'll just cherish so much. Also, I'm not having my camera on today because, truth be told, I haven't been sleeping very good, and I just look at it and I feel like this episode would just be harder on camera. And so, anyways, I just didn't want to turn my camera on. So, we moved back from California to Utah, and my husband showed me on Instagram this guy called Paul Saladino, and he was posting about this diet essentially where you just don't eat any processed food. And I had chronic IBS at the time, and I just had a lot of energy issues, and I was like, okay, well, maybe I'll just give this diet a try. Essentially, you just eat I was eating a pound of steak or grass-fed, grass-finished ground beef with some eggs, fruit, honey, and then some raw dairy. That was pretty much what I was eating. And I very quickly actually noticed that my body was changing for the better in a lot of ways. My energy levels were better. My IBS was going away really quickly. I was also taking organ supplements to get all those micronutrients as well. And I was thriving. I was loving it. So, which I wish I would have taken my blood work before I started on that, but that's okay. And the reason why I wanted to kind of start fixing essentially all of these different issues that I had was because I was I want to prepare my body for being pregnant and being a good vessel for a baby to grow, right? And so I was thinking 2.5 years basically in advance, and started to really take my health very seriously. I was working out, 4 to 5 days a week, I would say on average, walking a lot, which, by the way, I love having a dog because you just inevitably walk a lot more than you probably would if you didn't have a dog. And so basically I was doing that for a while. Fast forward to the beginning of 2024, I got my blood work done at the beginning of the year at my OBGYN office when I went in to just do I just did an ultrasound to make sure my ovaries and everything were all good. They were everything looks perfect. My folate looked incredible, which I'm I contribute, honestly, my folate levels being so great to eating, like taking beef liver supplements and all that kind of stuff. And I used to be anemic when I was in high school, had really great iron levels. My vitamin D was the only thing that was low, and she was like, it's winter, so that makes sense, because this was like, I think it was the very beginning of March. And then in the summer, I like spent a lot more time in the sun and got my blood work done again, and those went up. So essentially all of my levels were like at a very ideal scenario, like really the best that they could be, honestly. And this was I think that was in July of this year. So I was like, great. And my husband and I had been planning on, trying to get pregnant at basically this time of the year. And I also don't want to, I'm hesitant, honestly, about sharing how long it took us to get pregnant, because I feel like that's no one's business. But it was very quickly. That's all I'll say. And the only thing I'll say is that I attribute it to the fact that both of us were taking supplements and getting sunshine and doing all the things 2 years in advance. And we knew, because of our blood work, that our bodies were healthy, right? And so we wanted to tell our families for Christmas. That was like our plan, was to tell everyone for Christmas. So I basically went through my early pregnancy journey. Once I found out I was pregnant, I was almost 4 weeks, or maybe technically exactly 4 weeks with like how they calculate it. And this was back in, I think it was November 9th, or like it was like the first week of November, maybe earlier than that, that I found out. And I was like so shocked. Obviously, I was so excited, because if you've experienced that, it's like literally the best feeling ever. And we just decided that we wanted to keep it a secret until Christmas, which at Christmas time I would be about 10 and a half weeks pregnant. So we were like, oh, we can totally do that. We can totally wait. Like, it's so worth it, like, to be able to tell, your family for Christmas. So I would say once I hit 5 weeks, which was pretty quickly after, I started getting super sick, where I was throwing up every morning, without a doubt. Like, I would go downstairs, get a piece of toast at like 7 a.m. because sometimes I'd wake up in the middle of the night so hungry. If you know, you know. And if you don't know, then I'm excited for you to experience it, because honestly, it's like, even the things that you experience that are sometimes a little bit, maybe, what's the word I'm thinking of? Less than ideal, little inconvenient, you're still like so grateful for all those feelings. At least I was. I never once complained, even though I was very sick while I was pregnant. So at 5 weeks, I started throwing up every morning, and I would eat like a piece of toast, and then I would wait 30 minutes, and I would take literally a sip of water, like less than a tablespoon of water, and it would usually make me throw up. Some mornings it didn't, which I was always very grateful for. But then some mornings it was also just like, it's just so unpredictable. You never know, what you're going to be experiencing. So I basically, from 5 weeks up until, the pregnancy ended, essentially, I was super sick. Yeah, threw up 1 to 2 times, which, by the way, it was so hard to like make content, and I kind of went like a little MIA, because I was so nauseous 24/7. It didn't matter what I did. I could, do the lemon and all the ginger things, and I would just still be so nauseous, where it was just like so painful. But everyone was always like, that's really good that you're feeling super sick, because that means that like your HCG levels are super high. And, we had tons of people that, well, not tons. We had like a few people that we had told, like friend-wise, because we were hanging out with our friends all the time. We were like, let's just tell them. And we also just kind of wanted to tell people, because you're just so excited about being pregnant. You're like, I just want to like scream it from the rooftops. And so everyone was just really supportive and really cool about it. And I would say that overall, my pregnancy journey, the 9 weeks that I got to experience it, were so magical. And I am just so excited to experience it again. I don't care how sick I have to be. I actually told my husband, I was like, if I have to throw up every single day or multiple times a day to just have a healthy baby, then I'll do it. Like, it's crazy. You just don't care. You're just like, I'll do anything. And I was throwing up so violently that my throat would bleed and my nose would bleed. And also Utah's really dry, so that did not really help. But I mean, the best part is that you just feel better after you throw up. But it was just like, a lot. But again, I won't ever complain about it. I'm just sharing my experience. And that was the bulk of my experience. I watched all the Harry Potter movies because every morning when I would wake up, I just could not go on my phone. For some reason, my phone would make me like more nauseous. I think social media was just a little bit too overstimulating. So I started to watch all the Harry Potter movies. And so I finished all the Harry Potter movies in like 2 weeks because I would say week 6 to 8.5 was like so brutal, where I was just like, I need a comfort movie. So I started watching that. So let's get into the next part of the story, which is it's just not the vibe, but it is what it is. And before I say kind of my experience and everything, I wanted to say that I am so grateful for all the women who have reached out to me and shared their story and been so vulnerable, because honestly, I feel like that's like the main thing that's helped me, besides just feeling a lot of love and support from my close friends and family, is people sharing their experience, because it's really hard to explain the feeling, and I feel like you can't fully understand it unless you've been through it, honestly. Like, I just, like, the feeling of wanting to be a mom so bad, and then you get the experience of being pregnant, and then it's like taken away from you, is like such a crazy thing to experience. But even though all of those emotions, I've been feeling really heavy, I've also been filled with a lot of hope, faith, love, like an insane, like more, I swear I felt more love this past week than I felt like, honestly, probably my entire life. And which is so crazy, but okay, let me get into the story and then we'll kind of go more into that to kind of like close it out. Sorry, my brain also is so just like, I feel like I'm just still processing everything. And anyways, so let's see, what date was it? I'm actually going to pull up my phone, because the best way for me to tell a story, especially this story, is to get very specific with dates. So on December 9th, was a Monday, I was extra nauseous this day, and I had 2 videos that I had to film for brands, which now looking back, I should have said, like, I'm so sick. Like, I am basically on my freaking deathbed because I was so sick. I threw up 3 times that day alone. And I should have just said, like, I need to cancel. I can't do these campaigns. Like, I need to take care of my physical health, because stress is one of the worst things. When you're in a pregnancy that's really hard, I feel like stress just makes everything so much worse. But again, we're learning. I learned so much this pregnancy, and I know it's just going to help me in the future. So Monday, I was really sick, and I went to bed that night, and I just had like, something just felt off. That's like the best way I know how to explain it. My stomach, my digestion started to feel weird, and it felt different than like normal pregnancy weirdness digestion that you experience. And like, your digestion slows down when you're pregnant. So I don't know how to explain it, but basically, like, after you eat, you have to sit up, or for me, at least I had to sit up for 30 minutes to an hour, or I would like throw up the food that I just ate. So I went to bed on Monday night, and I was just up throughout the night. I had like a lot of night sweats, and I woke up on Tuesday morning and I noticed a little bit of spotting, and I was like, oh, that's weird. And we had a ultrasound that was scheduled for December 16th. So I called my doctor's office and I was like, hey, I had some bleeding. Do you think, like, what do you recommend? And they were like, why don't you just come in early for your ultrasound because it's in 6 days. And so 5 business days. So they were just like, come in, we'll just do your ultrasound a few days early. And I was like, okay, great. So we go into the ultrasound a few hours later and, oh, I forgot to say one. Sorry, I forgot to say like a main thing. When I woke up on Tuesday, I threw up again, of course, and I felt so dehydrated because I was having a really hard time keeping fluids down. Like it was really, really hard. So we had someone come over to our house and give me an IV because I felt like I felt like I had influenza A. I was like wailing on the couch. My poor husband's like taking care of me and working and, no one knows what's going on. But I was so, so, so sick. Like I could not get up. I couldn't really eat. Like I honestly felt like I was dying, if I'm being completely honest. And but I also have like a high pain tolerance at the same time. And I was just like, I feel like I have heat exhaustion. And that's kind of what we chalked it up to because we were like, you've been throwing up 1 to 2 times every day. You're depleting all your minerals or like that you're drinking are just going away. So we had someone come over to the house 2 hours later. He gave me an IV, which helped a lot. And when she gave me the IV, she was like, I was so out of it. But then I started like talking to her a lot while she was like still administering the IV. And I was like, oh, this is good because I couldn't even talk before because I was in so much pain. And I just started to like not really worry because I was like, oh, it's nothing serious. I was just super dehydrated. So then on later Tuesday, we go after that, probably like an hour after we finish the IV, we go into the ultrasound, go into my doctor's office, get the ultrasound. They look at baby. Baby's measuring perfectly. I'm at 8.5 weeks, by the way. I was 8 weeks and 5 days on the day of this ultrasound. So they measure baby and they did an abdominal ultrasound as well because the heartbeat was strong enough. She said the heartbeat rate was perfect. Like nothing was wrong. But then she's like, I do notice that you have a subchorionic hemorrhage, which is essentially like a little bit of bleeding around the sac, but they're in like 15% of women get them and 95% of women go on to have perfectly healthy, normal babies. Like they weren't worried about it. And it also wasn't super big where they weren't worried about it. And during the ultrasound, again, this is my first ultrasound I've ever had, obviously, because I'd never been pregnant before. And during this ultrasound, I don't know if I just drank too much water or if the IV was like, just filled me up with tons of fluid, but the ultrasound was like hurting me, like when she was doing it. And I was like, that's weird. And I don't know why I didn't say something. Again, I think it's because I was just like, I was so worried about the spotting that I wasn't even concerned about how, like, me being in pain. And I just thought, oh, my bladder's just super full. And then immediately after we leave the ultrasound, she's like, you might have a little bit more spotting from the subchorionic hemorrhage. Let us know if it gets super heavy, but she's like, you might actually like experience some bleeding from it. She's like, that's just normal. It's like, okay. So I go to the bathroom immediately after the ultrasound, and I hadn't seen any like bright red blood, but I did when I went to the bathroom, and I was like, oh, that's weird. I was like, why? And it kind of freaks you out when you're pregnant and you see blood. It's literally the worst thing ever. Like that's like when you go to the bathroom, you're almost like you're always checking because you're just like, am I okay? Especially if you're not feeling 100%. So I was like, something just feels off. And oh, I forgot to say this too. This is actually really crazy, which is just crazy because women have such intuition. When we were getting the doctor goes, do you feel better now that like you can see the baby, everything's healthy? And my husband's like, yes, for sure. Because for him, it's like, he's not pregnant. So it's like, it's cool for him to experience and like see the baby, see the heartbeat, all that stuff. And I literally said to her, I was like, honestly, no. And it's crazy to me that I said that I could just feel, and I didn't realize at the time, but subconsciously I could feel that something was off, clearly. Because if you know me, I am such a positive person. Like, in any scenario, I'm always finding the good in something. Always. I've always been like that. And especially for something like this that I've been waiting really my whole life to experience, that's like not, it doesn't fit my character for that to be the first thing that I said. And I think it's also because I was experiencing the pain, so something was wrong. And we get in the car, we go home, and while we were in the car going home, something just felt off. Colby was trying to talk to me, and I was just like, I couldn't wrap my head around it, but I was like, something's just not right. And normally after you get an ultrasound, you probably would more likely feel the opposite, like, oh, I just saw my baby, this is probably a really normal thing to experience. So we get home, and I laid down on the couch. It was 5 p.m. at this point, and I fell asleep immediately. And I was like, hey, will you? And then I woke up like an hour later, and I was like, will you get me the heating pad? So Colby got me the heating pad, and I started to experience a lot of cramping. And I was like, okay, this is weird. But, we were chat GPTing everything, and chat was saying like, no, it can be normal to experience cramping and everything that you're experiencing with a subchorionic hemorrhage. And so I was like, okay, I'm just not gonna think about it that much. I'm just gonna sleep. And I was so exhausted, and I was also in so much pain that I didn't want to do anything but sleep, which was also really weird. But I could not stay awake because of how tired I was. But I also didn't judge that, because when you're pregnant, the fatigue is crazy. And I started getting really tired at 8 weeks. So at this point, it wasn't super rare for me to be feeling so fatigued that I just needed to sleep. And then I woke up a few hours later. I think it was around 8 or 9 p.m. And I went upstairs, and I had noticed that the bleeding had picked up a little bit. And I was like, okay, that's really weird. And then I was like, well, I'll just, so I switched, put a clean pad on, went to bed, woke up around 11, and then noticed that the bleeding had just was getting heavier. And then I started to notice clots when I was going to the bathroom, small, again, not anything super crazy, but I was so out of it that I wasn't really thinking clearly. And I've obviously never been pregnant, so I didn't really know what was going on. And we had just heard from the doctor that, this is normal with a subchorionic. And so I just kind of every hour to every maybe sometimes every 2 hours, I would wake up and then change my pad, and then kind of just doing the same thing. Or maybe it was every 2 to 3 hours. And then around 2 a.m., I called my doctor's office, and I explained the situation, and I talked to the night nurse, and she was like, if you went in today and everything looks great, then I wouldn't worry about it too much. It's like, okay. Then I just went to sleep. She's like, you can take Tylenol. And I was like, okay. I didn't really want to take medicine because I was just trying to be, very holistic, which I wouldn't do anything different in that case. But I was in so much pain that night. And then on Wednesday, I kind of was just experiencing the same thing. We went to the hospital again on Wednesday. We were there for a while. We were in the ER for a while, but that whole thing, I can't really remember Wednesday that much. It was such a blur for me, which is really weird. But I feel like Wednesday I feel like I just skipped to Thursday, which I know sounds so crazy. But Wednesday, it was just all this same stuff, not the vibe. I didn't know it at the time, but I was having a lot of contractions, and but I was so tired, and I was losing a good amount of blood that I was just, again, kind of out of it. And then on Thursday, same thing, I forgot to mention, when I went and got my ultrasound on the Tuesday, they also had me get my HCG levels tested. And then I went back in, or was that Wednesday? Wait, no, it was Wednesday that they had me get my HCG levels tested. So then Wednesday, when we went to the ER, I got my blood levels tested. Thursday, we went. Wait, was it Thursday or was it Friday? No. Oh my gosh, you guys, literally my days are so mixed up, and this was only last week. Just goes to show you how emotionally draining everything has been, and mentally too. I'm just going to skip Wednesday and Thursday and just tell you that it was ER stuff. And then also we went to the ER, but we were mostly just talking to my doctors because the ER was right by my doctor's office, and I didn't really want to talk. I would rather talk to like my own doctors than going into the ER. So I'm just going to skip to Friday now. Actually, I'll skip to Thursday night. So Thursday night, Thursday morning, by the way, I was passing like a lot of blood, just like a lot, and specifically clotting and tissue. And it was like literally more blood than I've ever seen in my entire life. I was like, okay. So I wake up, I went to the bathroom again Thursday night, and I noticed that I had like passed tissue, and I was like, this is like, I wiped and I noticed that I had passed tissue, and I was like, super weird. But I was like asking chat, and chat was like, this can be normal, and especially if you just got an ultrasound, like everything's probably fine. Like you should totally be okay. It's like, okay. And so, but something just felt wrong. So I called Colby, and I was like, when I was in the bathroom, and he was like, let's just do some research. Let's like, let's go to bed, because it was really late at this point. And then let's call your doctor's office in the morning and see what they say. So I called my doctor's office on Friday morning, and I explained to them the situation, and I said they were kind of fighting me on an ultrasound, and they were like, well, if we give you an ultrasound today, we can't tell you the results until Monday. And I was like, I don't care. I was like, I just need to get another ultrasound. And mind you, we had my ultrasound on Tuesday, and this was Friday. And I was like, she kind of was like not fighting me on it, but she was like, are you sure? Do you want to just wait over the weekend? And I was like, no. I was like, I need to come in. And so I went in again to my doctor's office, and before we went upstairs to go get the ultrasound, I got my HCG levels tested again, because they'll do that. I did that a few times while I was pregnant only one other time, because I had some spotting when I was like 6 weeks, and everything looked great. My HCG levels were actually so high when I was 6 weeks that we thought that there was a chance I was pregnant with twins, because they were so high. So, okay, going back to the story So we go in, get my blood levels tested, and then we go up to the ultrasound clinic. And I was like, this time I'm only going to drink the 35 ounces that they say 1 hour before. And I also was like noticing that I was fine drinking a lot of water, which I was like, that's weird. And I had kind of lost my appetite, which hadn't been really weird, because when I was pregnant, I literally could only eat saltines and bread and like chomps, like those beef jerky sticks and Greek yogurt. That was like basically my entire diet. And I couldn't eat like anything else. Like I couldn't eat anything with spice, anything with flavor. Like I would immediately throw it up, or the smell of the kitchen would just make me so sick. It was crazy. So it was weird, because I remember waking up on Friday and I was just like, I feel like fine. Like I was like, I feel like I could not eat right now, which is weird, because normally I wake up and I have to I would have a loaf of bread literally and saltines by my bedside, because that's how sick I was just every morning. And but I was also just like, my body's just going under so much stress right now. And apparently it can be a thing where if your body's just under that much stress, where you're losing so much blood, that it kind of just overrides the nausea symptoms. And I was also at 9 weeks, which everyone always says, I thought maybe like at 9 weeks, my nausea would kind of like lighten a little bit. So we're in the ultrasound room, and it was the same doctor. It was my same doctor that did it on Tuesday. I have a few different midwives that I see, and she was like, do you want me to turn the screen on? And I was like, yes. And so she turned it on, and I just automatically knew. She didn't even say anything. and I just knew. So I mean, it's literally the most like gut-wrenching thing to experience, especially when 2 days prior you saw your baby's body, you saw their heartbeat, and then you go in and there's no longer anything in your uterus. It's just the most awful feeling ever. And so I just obviously start, crying, and she was like, "I'm so sorry." And then she went and got the other doctor, which I don't know why she couldn't say anything. I don't know, because the screen was on, she didn't even have to say anything. I just knew because it looked obviously completely different than when you're pregnant. So the other doctor came in and she was talking to us, and she was just, saying that she's like, we don't fully know the cause. A lot of times with miscarriages, this stage of the pregnancy, it's chromosomal abnormalities. But for me, it's like I didn't in the moment I was going, I didn't really ask too many questions because you're just in such shock and you're crying so hard, and you just received like maybe the worst news you'll ever get in your life, or one of the top 5 basically. And so you're just processing everything. And she was really sweet, and she was like, and she was talking for a little bit, and then she said, do you have any questions for me? And my husband was awesome because he was like asking questions that both of us had for the past 2 days, because we didn't get to talk to this specific doctor. We were just talking to nurses before. And so he was asking a lot of questions. Honestly, I don't really remember what he was asking, but I just remember that a lot of her answers were, I don't know. That was like the main thing that I got from it. And I was just like, holy crap, what do you mean you don't know? Like, what do you mean? How do we have so much technology, but yet you can't tell me how my baby died? Like, what do you mean you don't know? And I'm hoping, because they did an ultrasound, I am really hoping that when I go in for my follow-up appointment in 2 weeks, that they can tell me if it was a subchorionic that caused it, or that's really what I want to know, is if that's what caused it. Because if that's what caused it, then that can be something that can be treated. And there's a lot of things you can do, like taking baby aspirin or taking progesterone. There's like so many different things that you can do to help limit that risk if you have a subchorionic. And I think the worst part, honestly, about this whole situation is that when I went to the bathroom on Tuesday night and I passed tissue, I didn't realize it at the time, but it was literally my baby. And I'm really grateful that in that moment, I had ignorance, because ignorance really was bliss. The one thing I've noticed is that while I was still bleeding really heavily and having tissue and clotting and all that kind of stuff, like, it's so violent. I can't even explain it, and I don't even want to explain it because it's just a lot. I was just having like PTSD every time I went to the bathroom, and you have to drink a lot of fluids, and cause your body just it's so dehydrated. So I was drinking like a Stanley in like 2, maybe 3 hours. So you're peeing like every 30 minutes. And anyways, so my doctor was like, we can do, we'll do some genetic testing, we can do whatever you need to feel better. And so essentially, from all of this, which we hadn't told any of our parents, by the way, that we were pregnant. Like I was saying, we were saving that for Christmas. Honestly, I can't even think about that, because Christmas is my favorite season, my favorite holiday of the entire year. And this has been something I've wanted to do for, like I said, 2.5 years. It was basically, we planned it for, a long time, like you do when you're married and you're starting to plan your family and all that kind of stuff. And to tell my parents, they didn't even know I was pregnant. They didn't know I was going through all this. And to tell them, like, the first time, to not get that experience of telling them that we were pregnant and it had to be that we had a miscarriage. Also, by the way, I hate that word so much. Like like I just don't like the word. I haven't really had time to think about that part, but I hate the word miscarriage because it's like I don't want to go into that because that's just a whole separate thing. But we drove to their house, told them, both Colby's parents and my parents were obviously so awesome and so loving. And for me in that moment, like a few nights before then, I had just been crying because I was like, I just want my mom. I wanted Colby's mom, or I wanted my mom. I just needed like a woman who had basically just been pregnant that had, motherly instincts over me, because what I was going through was so traumatic. And again, I think I was just like also in shock, but I'm super grateful that my husband's so incredible and so amazing, because I can't imagine going through this whole situation alone. And I also didn't realize it at the time, but I was having contractions Tuesday night and Wednesday night, and that's why I couldn't sleep, is because you're having really intense contractions because my body obviously passed the baby. And I think it's also, there's so many things with a miscarriage that, or just losing a baby, that are so hard. And for me, there was a few different things. Like, we didn't find out the gender because we were planning on opening the gender envelope on Christmas. And it's just really hard that won't ever be a thing for our first baby. Like, we don't get to experience that. And honestly, I feel like I have cried so much throughout this whole experience and I actually cried a lot yesterday, which yesterday was the 18th. And it's just like, it's crazy how your emotions just come and go in waves. And there's no way of like predicting it. Like, someone said something to me yesterday and they're like, I'm so sorry. And I just like break down crying. I'm like, and I'm not going to judge myself, but I was like kind of embarrassed because I was in public, and I hate crying in front of people so much. I hate it. And anyways, there's just so many different things that go along with losing a baby that your emotions are so all over the place. And I had some really cool, this is actually like, I'm sure every pregnant woman experiences this, but I was really scared about having a miscarriage. And I've kind of been someone who's like a little bit maybe of a hypochondriac my whole life. And I was so nervous about it, specifically my first week of being pregnant. And after that, Colby gave me a priesthood blessing, which is a thing that we do in our religion. And I felt so much better, and I felt so much peace. I was studying my scriptures every morning, and I just felt really comforted, and I felt really at peace. So that feeling kind of like went away. And I just had this feeling where I was like, I just know our baby's going to be okay. Like, I just knew that. And honestly, I still do know that. And I now know and realize that I was just being prepared for something different than I thought that something was going to go, than like the way that I thought it was going to go. But I know for a fact that, I'll see my angel baby again. And, sorry. And I have a lot of peace, and I have a lot of hope that when the time is right, that our earthside babies will come to us when they're meant to. And I have so much joy and thinking about that, honestly. And I know that everything will work out. And I think the hardest thing, truthfully, with all of this is just not having answers. Because yes, obviously there's like, it's hard for me because it's almost easier to accept if there was like chromosomal, or, like maybe the baby's brain wasn't on track to develop correctly, but to like be told that your baby's perfect and that you have some bleeding, and then immediately after, like, it's hard for me to accept if that was the reality, that something that was preventable caused me to lose my first baby. And so that's been kind of like the harder pill to swallow. But I also want answers. So I'm going to be doing some testing to see if my blood clots normally. And I'm going to be doing a lot of testing again on my thyroid as well. My TSH was a little bit elevated before I got pregnant, and I knew that. And I had actually called my doctor's office and I explained that to them the day I found out I was pregnant, and they were like, "Don't worry about it. We'll take a look at your TSH when you come in." And I should have said, "No, I need to come in earlier." Like I should have said that. So please learn from me that if you already know your thyroid levels before you get pregnant and they're elevated, pregnancy can elevate your hormone levels more. And just be your own advocate and don't take no for an answer. And if someone tells you no, then go to somebody else that will listen to you. Because yeah, that's literally one of the best pieces of advice that I've learned, honestly, throughout all this is, I mean, there's so many different things. Maybe I'll have to do that in a separate episode of just like once a little bit more time has gone by and I've learned a little bit more things, maybe gotten some clarity on some things, then, you know, maybe I would love more than anything to be able to help other women, because it is, you know, and also to be preventable. It's crazy to me that we have so much like technology and yet miscarriages are such a big question mark. Like I'm not going to accept that because I don't know. It's hard for me to believe. But I also believe that it's hard because the like natural man part of me is like, I need answers for everything and anything. And I know that they exist. And then the other side of me is like, no, we need to be at peace with knowing that God has a plan and he knows all things and he'll work everything out, and everything, like, he already knows what's going to happen in your life. You know what I mean? And I feel like if you're a spiritual person, then you'll be able to relate with that in some way. But for me, that I definitely do believe that. And so it's kind of interesting to have these two sides of your brain, like the logical side and then the spiritual side, like arguing with each other. But then the spiritual side is also logical in a lot of ways, because when you can't control something, there's nothing that you can do. It doesn't do any good to just like spend hours researching, which I did that, and it can get you somewhere, but it's also so emotionally taxing that it can be better to just fully not go there at the same time. So that's kind of my pregnancy and miscarriage story. And the reason why I was talking to my husband, and I was like, I honestly haven't really ever seen too much on the internet about miscarriage and subchorionic hemorrhages and all these different things. And I was like, I wish that I would have. I wish I would have been like maybe informed, or I was looking for that content after I experienced what I did, because I just so badly wanted to know that I wasn't alone. Like, that's all I wanted. And my mom actually has had 3 miscarriages, and they struggled with infertility for 7 years, and that's why they adopted me. So my mom, when I told her, she just like I said, I was supposed to be 9 weeks. I was at their house and I was like, I was supposed to be 9 weeks pregnant tomorrow. And she just grabbed me and hugged me, because she knows that pain. And it's so hard it's really nice to relate to women that understand it in some way, in some capacity. And through this whole experience, I had no idea how many women I had in my life that had experienced this. Maybe, you know, like aunts or people that are family friends that are just older than me. So I was, you know, super young, or I wasn't even born when they went through this experience. And it's been really cool to see how women specifically just are showing so much love and outpouring, because I think even as a mom, if you haven't experienced a miscarriage, you can still somewhat imagine being in someone's shoes, and just, it's hard to even fathom it. Honestly, I couldn't fathom it. But when I got pregnant, I was like, I can't even imagine experiencing that, because that just sounds like, it's like your worst nightmare. And for some people like me, it comes true and you're just like, what do I even do? And so my one other thing too that was just a whole thing to deal with is my husband and we do all the activities for our church. So we're in charge of like Halloween parties, Christmas parties, and our Christmas party, we found out on the 13th that we had lost our baby, and our Christmas party was the next morning, and we were supposed to set up that night. And when you have a miscarriage, you can't lift heavy. You're basically like just supposed to like relax. Like your body is going through so much. It already goes through a lot when it's pregnant, but when it's going through losing so much blood, the emotional, all that stuff, and then you have the physical, it's just a lot. And so my sweet, amazing husband just buckled down, because it's hard when you are planning like such a big event. You can't pass it on to somebody else. And we had help from 2 other people that were helping us with it, but you can't pass it on to them. And what are you supposed to say? Like, oh, sorry, my wife and I just lost our baby. No, you just have to do it. And also, I wanted us to do it because I was like, Heavenly Father has blessed us so much, and I feel so much love, and I want to give to him, and I want to show up for him. And so I wanted my husband to, continue to plan the party and do everything. And so one of my really good friends, Kara, and she's in our ward and lives in our neighborhood, and she's been one of the people in my life that's been so awesome. And she just said, like, what do you need? So she got, some women together, and they all set up the party with Colby. And then the next morning, Colby's, back there again, doing everything. And I know this sounds so crazy, but because I wasn't there, and I have a lot of friends, that are in our ward, everyone's like, where's Tara? Because normally it's both of us running around like crazy. We had someone catering pancakes, we had bingo going on, all these really fun things. And the party turned out really fun. Everyone was telling me that they loved it, by the way, which I was so excited for, because if you guys know me, I love to host. I love to have a good party. And I received so much extra love that day, and really like for the days to come after that too, because, people maybe just wouldn't have known, and so, like weirdly, it's just, you really have to see all the silver linings. And when you go through something that's really hard, and not only do you have to, it's like you want to, because you just are craving and wanting good. And at least I'm definitely like that, where I'm always looking, kind of like I said earlier, I'm always looking for a silver lining, always looking for hope and peace and love. And because you can always find it, whatever you're looking for, whatever your attention goes to, I genuinely believe that that's what you're going to find, and that's what you're going to see. And I told my husband, I was like, I'm so grateful that it happened this weekend, even though it was harder for you, because he texted me during the event, and he was like, it's really hard for me to be here because I just want to be with you, because he had to leave me, and I wanted him to. I have to say that so many times, because I wanted him to. And but and obviously in his mind, he's also processing things in his own way, even though he's not the one physically going through it. It was still his baby too. And so anyways, but that went really great. And then, just the next coming days, we just felt so much love. Like every day since it happened, we've had someone show up with flowers or a gift, or sometimes multiple in one day, or someone texting both of us. And it's just, I feel so much love, and I know my husband does as well. And that's the best thing that you can do for somebody who is going through a miscarriage or loses somebody that they love, is just to show up. That's one thing I've learned, is just showing up, dropping off someone's favorite treats or something, or bringing them dinner, reaching out every few days. You can never, one thing I've also learned, which I didn't fully know this before experiencing something like this, is that you can never be like overbearing to somebody, because even if they don't respond for even like a few days, even if they don't say anything, or if they never say something, just know that saying something is so much better than not saying anything. And I actually I didn't really fully know that, honestly, before experiencing this. Sorry, I need a drink of water. And now I just know. It's so good to text, call, drop something off. And now I told my husband, I said, any woman that I know who will go through this, because I've had a few friends that have experienced it. I actually think, yeah, I've had a handful. Oh my gosh, I can't talk. But it really makes you think, like, wow, I need to make sure to like really show someone love, because it's so hard to experience. So one thing that my husband and I talked about, and Colby is so incredible. Honestly, like I can't even give him, I can't even give him justice if I tried. And maybe one day we can talk together about all of this on an episode. But he, from the second that we found out the news, he, when the second we found out that we miscarried, he was such a rock for me. He just knows exactly what to say for me personally, and I think that's what's so great and special about marriage, and especially when you find somebody who can be that person for you. Because when something hard happens, how somebody reacts, I think, is really when their true character can really come out, and you can see just a lot of different parts of somebody's personality. And we've just been talking a lot, and I told him, I was like, I want to be someone, I want to be a light for other women who have experienced this, because it's so hard, and there's so many unknowns, like we've talked about in this episode. But at the same time, there's so much good, and there's so much hope, and there are so many answers that you can find out. And if you can put your trust and your faith in God, which is absolutely incredible. And I can't imagine, for me personally, I can't imagine going through this without having my testimony and my faith that I have in my Heavenly Father and my Savior. And yeah, I think that that's something for me that really helped a lot. And I hope that I can be somebody who, even through all of this, this episode's been a little bit more heavy than just, the fun, girly things that we like to talk about. But I think that it's really important when, at least for me, I'm speaking from experience, by the way, and I'm speaking through my own truths and what I believe, and you can agree or not, and that's totally okay. You're completely entitled to your own opinion, as I know you know that. And so I'm just going to say that for me, in this scenario, the best thing for me has been to put my faith in my Savior and my Heavenly Father, all my trust, and seeking them out as well, and spending a lot of time praying and studying my scriptures has been it's been such a rock and such a foundation for me. And I've had so many people that have said, like, I'm so surprised by, like, how you're handling this. Like, you sound positive. And honestly, I take that as such a big compliment because I'm proud of myself because of how much work it takes to view things in that light and in that type of way. And everybody can get there as well, for sure. And yeah, honestly, I feel like that's kind of it's kind of really all that I feel like I have to say about this, at least for now. I'm sure things can change on a dime, and maybe not on a dime, but things can just only improve, essentially, is what I'm saying, moving forward, which I think is so exciting and very cool. And my husband and I were actually we were going to go out of town for Christmas because all of our Christmas gifts are all baby themed, and they're all, they all have either a pregnancy test in them or some significance that signifies to our parents that they're going to be grandparents. And so we were just like, I don't know, honestly, how Christmas is going to go. And I think I'm just really excited for the new year because it feels like more than ever, it feels like a fresh start, a clean slate. And so I think that there's a chance that the grief could like kind of linger a little bit until after Christmas because of that, because of all these things that we had basically pent up to this day. And but I'm also really aware of that. I feel like I'm a very self-aware person for the most part. And so I already know that might be a hard thing to experience. And so hopefully after the new year, things can just, continue to improve. And I'm really excited to go into my OBGYN office. I'm going in actually on like right around New Year's, which is really awesome because we can start doing some testing and, all those types of things, which I think is really exciting and hopeful. And, yeah, I'm really excited for my rainbow baby. I can't even tell you. And I'm really excited, by the way, that this isn't like a secret anymore, in the sense of like the fact that I'm ready and trying and excited to be a mom, because I feel like I've been able to relate already with so many women through my Instagram DMs. And please DM me. If you have something to say, please DM me. I would love to hear from you. It's honestly been that's also been something I have loved, is hearing from my online bestie girlies about your experience. And so many of you have so much wisdom too, which is just, it's been really special and really cool. And I was actually called my husband yesterday and I was crying and I was like, I just love social media so much. I was like, I'm so grateful that I can connect with all these amazing women, and that there's just like there's this corner on the internet that's ours. And I'm really excited for Trophy Life to continue to grow and for the podcast to grow. And obviously I literally launched the podcast like a few days before I found out that I was pregnant, and I had no idea I was going to be so sick. And that was really fun. So the last episode, I was so out of breath. If you listen to it and you haven't heard it, you might be able to like tell, because I was just like trying to catch my breath. Crazy when you're pregnant. You're just like winded 24/7. You're hungry and winded 24/7 and thirsty. But I'm so excited to experience being pregnant again. And I never once complained, even when I was really sick, when I was pregnant, which I'm so happy also that I had that attitude, because obviously now I would give anything to be pregnant with a healthy baby. And that's when you're longing for that. It's like you don't care. You will be so sick. You'll be sicker than a dog. Who cares? You're like, I do not care. I just want my healthy baby. And, yeah, I'm excited to make, have some more podcast episodes on just sharing things I'm learning, my experience, my story, because at this point I'm honestly, I've always been an open book, but for me, if I can help at least one person feel less lonely, or maybe learn something or think of something that maybe they didn't know fully before, then for me, that's so worth it, and that makes me really happy. And also, I just love connecting with women. I love to yap with women. I love to connect with them. I love women, and so I'm really excited about the new year, and I want to do once I go in for my appointment, and I guess it's like a week and a half now. I'll go into that on an episode, and then I also want to do like a New Year's resolution type of episode, but not. I mean, I'm such a firm believer in setting goals for the new year, and I think goals are incredible, and they've changed my life, setting goals. So I don't think goals are ever something to be slept on. And I think a good way to think about it is think of like all companies, they always set goals. So it's like, why as a person would I treat myself any different if they get results from them? So we'll go into that on another episode, but yeah, I feel a lot of, I can't stop saying it because of how much love I feel. It's crazy. I will never shut up about it, honestly. I just feel so much love and hope, and I have so much faith that everything's going to work out, and God knows everything. And if you're curious about, I actually get a lot of DMs about this, and I used to a lot also when I used to stream Call of Duty on Twitch and on my other TikTok account about my religion. And I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And if you look up comeuntochrist.org, you'll be able to just find out more about the church, but it's it's the Church of Jesus Christ. So or you can DM me as well, but it's such a rock from my life personally, and I'm here to share my life experiences, and I'm never going to apologize for my beliefs or who I am as a person. And yeah, and I'm excited to share that, and I hope that you will do the same with me, because I genuinely love getting DMs from you guys. Like I love it. It's why I started creating content on social media when I was in high school, is because I just loved making friends on the internet. Loved it. So I love you guys tons. If you have questions about anything, on the Big Sis advice column, which is going to be in the show notes. If you're on Spotify, it's in the description, and then if you're on YouTube, it's also in the description. I'll actually add it to my Instagram stories too right now, so that it can be on there. But you can fill out that Google form, and you can, if you have any questions as well about miscarriage, pregnancy, preconception, there's so much that we can go into in another episode. And I would love to help answer any questions that you might have in that arena, as well as if you have questions, I can even try and ask my OB as well, especially if they're questions that I already have, but just anything, or just in general advice if you need anything. We have the Big Sis column, and then there's also a few others that are down there as well. And I want to do some episodes just kind of answering those questions and chatting with you guys, because I think that that's such a fun way to connect. And I've always been somebody in my personal life that people come to for advice, because I can just think very logically, but I'm also emotional at the same time. And so everybody knows this about me, but I'm the best secret keeper. So everything obviously will be anonymous, but I've always been that way through my whole life. I always say it has something to do with me being adopted, that my loyalty, like if I ride for you, like I will literally take a bullet for you. Like I will ride for you, and you guys are no exception to that. So yeah, feel free to leave any questions in there, or marriage advice, family advice, in-law advice, friend advice, anything, career questions about content creation, really anything. So love you guys so much, and hopefully we'll be back on our regular podcast schedule soon. It's not going to be something often where I miss episodes, and this is actually going live today. So this is like in real time that you are experiencing this episode. So anyways, I will see you guys in the next one. Have the best Christmas. In case I don't hear from you before Christmas. I hope you have an incredible Christmas. Feel a lot of love, and but also know that if you are going through something hard, it's okay. It's okay, and everything's gonna work out. Have faith, have hope for your future. Yeah, I know the holidays can be really hard for a lot of people, and I never thought that I would be in that boat, but here we are, and that's okay. And we're in this together, and sometimes I think it's just really nice to know that you're not alone. So I love you guys, and have the best Thursday. See you in the next one. Bye. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode. I hope you enjoyed it just as much as I did. If you enjoyed it, make sure to join the Trophy Life Club. It's a free community for the girls by yours truly, and it's on Instagram. It's just at Trophy Life Club. You can also follow me at Tara Kelly Smith on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. If you have an extra minute, I would also love and super appreciate if you would review the podcast. This will just help us reach more women who could use a little TLC, aka Trophy Life Club, in their life. So I hope you have an amazing day, and I'll see you in the next one. Love you. Bye.